going to do a little call and response. Just remind everybody while we are out here. Black lives? Yeah. Black lives? Yeah. Black lives? Yeah. Black women? Yeah. Black men? Yeah. Black boys? Yeah. Black girls? Yeah. Black trans? Yeah. And I hope y'all mean that. And I saw
My name is Anand Georgis. I'm from Mount Vernon, New York. I used to teach special education in the Northeast Bronx as well. Yeah, shout out, exactly. It was July 4th a couple days ago. And 1 month from July 4th, 1 month earlier, I was the victim of police brutality. It wasn't my first time, it was my most recent time. It was an experience that many of you may have seen on the television. I was part of the FTP rally that went down in the South Bronx. And we became victims of a military tactic known as kettling. Kettling is when you box in your enemy from the front and the back. The sides, you are no longer able to move. You are entrapped. You are enclosed. And the cops for the front, they were in riot gear with armored bikes. I'd never seen it before. Cops to the back of us, armored bikes, riot gear. And then while those of us were staying in the inside of this kettle, we had nowhere to go. This was deliberate, this was planned. The cops had trapped us before 8 o'clock because they knew there was a curfew. And they knew that if we were unable to escape this kettle, that we would be breaking curfew. We would be committing a crime. So us peaceful protesters were standing there, chanting, singing, in solidarity with smiles, and we didn't know what was about to befall us. The cops from the back started moving in. We couldn't move. We started getting enclosed tighter and tighter in a space where, again, we couldn't move. I heard a refrain that I had heard from social media and on videos before, but I had never heard it up close. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. You're gonna kill us. I ended up being arrested that day along with about 200 people. Many people were victims of police brutality that day. I was held and detained for 19 hours. No phone call, no food, held with zip ties behind my back, my bones pulling my shoulders apart for 8 hours. How ironic is it that those of us who were protesting against police brutality became victims of police brutality? What does that say about our system? But you know what? Yeah, exactly it is. This is something I've understood for a long time growing up in Mount Vernon, New York. I had heard in school as a little kid, 1991 when I was in first grade, I heard about Rodney King. 1995, when I was in 5th grade, I heard about Amadou Diallo. Abner Louima, excuse me. 1999, I heard about Amadou Diallo. 2003, I heard about Sean Bell. I went to college, came back, taught special education in the Northeast Bronx. 10 blocks from my school, 217th and Barnes, where Marley Graham was gunned down in his own home. This has gone on for years after years, decades after decades. We know about Elijah McClain last year. We know about George Floyd this year. When is it going to stop? And it's not going to, because policing itself is an institution of violence. It's an institution of oppression. Those of us who are black, indigenous, people of color, it's something that we've understood throughout our history. But you might be surprised that in absolute terms, the demographic group that is killed the most by police is white people. I say that not to dilute Black Lives Matter. I say that to show you that if white people are being killed by the police, then you know people of color are going to be getting it twice as bad. Right. And the reality is that black males, 1/3 of us are incarcerated. I was a special education teacher. 40% of people in jail are people with disabilities or mental health issues. So how do we move forward from this? We move forward for first understanding the history where this comes from. Policing itself is rooted in racist settler colonialism. It comes from slave patrols to now cops occupying our hoods. It comes from the Texas Rangers pushing Mexican and indigenous people off the land. It comes from the Chinese Exclusion Acts of 1882. So don't be surprised that you can't spell police without ICE. This is the reality of policing. And so when we are in this moment right now, it's not just a moment, it's a movement. We're reimagining America. We need to make sure that we end the war on drugs. We need to make sure that we decriminalize sex work. We need to end anti-homelessness ordinances. We need to make sure we have free public transit so my students don't get put in cuffs when they try to go to school, when they hop a turnstile. This isn't about good cops or bad cops. This is about policing as an institution and understanding where it comes from its roots. So right now in this moment, I ask all of you to challenge yourselves, interrogate your own biases. Make sure you understand, why are black women and black trans women specifically not being spoken about in this discussion? How come they're being rendered invisible again? And so I just want to end with a statistic that I found interesting. After George Floyd's murder, they did a poll that said, basically looking at how white Americans were reacting to the burning of the precinct in Minneapolis in response to the murder. And I was actually surprised. I was like, all right, white allies, 50% of them thought that it was somewhat justified. I was surprised. That was a high number. But then I look at other things that are associated with the program that we need to make sure that we are implementing with defunding the NYPD. I look at reparations. Only 15% of white Americans support reparations. So what does that mean? That means that the majority of America is down with understanding what black trauma and black anger is like, but a minority of America is only down when it comes to black liberation and black justice. We need to be all in solidarity together because the police, ICE, the military, they work together. We need to make sure that we're in solidarity, standing strong. And when I speak today, I know we're going to do that. Thank you.